All right, good afternoon. My name is Judge Barry Sarkissian. We're here today, and now we are early June 2017, and I'm pleased to say that we were able to secure the presence of former judge, former state senator, Edward T. O'Connor, a former colleague and still a friend. Welcome, Judge O'Connor.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's like coming home.
I told you when we just spoke for a few minutes before we came up here, I said I was going to ask you that experience of what you felt, anything, when you walked up the steps of Brennan Courthouse, where you were for several years, on the second floor where I am right now, and how you felt as you walked up those steps, but you can't answer that question.
I can't answer that question honestly because I didn't go up the steps. Brian, the sheriff's officer, saw me and summoned me in through the basement, so I didn't get to experience the going up the step experience.
But you were able finally to get in the building, even through the basement steps, and how did it feel to be back in the halls, hallowed halls of Brennan Courthouse?
It felt great, and I ran into at least 4 or 5 people that I remember, and they remembered me. So it was great to be welcomed back to the Brennan.
Yeah, it is a truism to say that when you walk through the halls and you're still an active judge, everyone approaches you and says, "Judge, how are you, Judge? How you doing?" But then to be gone, and you've been retired, what, 4.5 years now?
4.5 years.
Right? To still have people that know you, respect you, as I'm sure they did, to get some recognition is something. But we all know after a certain period of time, you'll walk through the halls and there'll be no reaction.
In fact, I came up on the elevator with a young man, and I was carrying my robe in its plastic bag, and he looked at me and he said, "Are you a judge?" So I said, "Well, I used to be." In fact, he got on the second floor. I said, "I used to sit right here on this second floor in the courtroom next door." He goes, "Oh, nice to meet you, Judge."
Well, I sort of get those inquiries all the time. Sometimes you get the pro ses that are looking for a lawyer and you have to decline because you're a judge, of course. But going back to you, you're kind enough to send me your resume because of course I've known you for years, and we both went to the same college, St. Peter's College.
And both sang in the Glee Club.
Both sang in the Glee Club. Do you remember the phrase, the crest, what the crest said on the blazer?
Cantate cum gaudio.
What does that mean?
Sing with joy.
Okay. And we did. It was a great group. Of course, at your time, it was an all-male chorus, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
And who was the name of the director again?
G. Marston Haddock.
Yes.
And he was a Renaissance man, if ever there was one.
Yeah.
He had been the director of the choir at Leeds College of Music in England, and he was the consummate English gentleman.
Yes.
Just a wonderful man.
Yes, unfortunately, I haven't a chance to experience him, but because we had his successor, who was his assistant,
Yeah.
Patrick Kleins. But again, that's our college days. That's college, of course, is part of your career, and Glee Club, to a large extent, was a very real part of the St. Peter's College experience for anyone that was in the Glee Club. But
Sure.
Let me just turn to you, and something that sort of stuck out at me as I went quickly through your resume earlier today is that I can tell you, based on your long career as an attorney, partner in the firm of Camerata, Shalgin, and O'Connor, state senator, and a judge of the Superior Court, you have mathematically a very well-rounded career. Do you know what I mean by that?
Not exactly.
Okay. You are, and I think I have the numbers right, I believe you were a founding partner for the firm as a lawyer, Shalgin, Camerata, O'Connor, and you were a lawyer in that firm for 30 years, from 1972 until February 2002.
That's correct.
Okay, a round number. Then we have you serving as a member of the New Jersey State Senate from 1982 to January 2002, another round 20 years. Am I correct about that?
Correct, yeah.
And the final mathematical round off, if you will, I'll say, that career that was a well-rounded, if you will, is that you were a member of the New Jersey Superior Court from 2002 until 2012. Another round 10 years. Did you ever realize that?
Actually, it's almost 11 years that I was on the bench. 10 years and 8 months to be exact.
Okay, well, you're right there. You're right there. I was just looking at the years. I wanted, for purpose of making the point, which I
Right.
thought might be clever.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I'd talk about that. But beyond the mathematical component of a well-rounded career, how about in a non-mathematical component? Just generally, how do you, looking back now at those years that you really devoted to the profession, to public service, is there any one particular role that stands out in your mind that you enjoyed more than the other?
You know what? And that was a question I kind of thought you would ask me because I get that a lot. What did you like more, being a state senator or being a judge? And in all honesty, I can't say that I truly preferred one over the other. There were certain things about each of those jobs that really attracted me and I enjoyed doing. There were other things that at times were very tedious, but you did it anyway because it was part of the job. I would say if I had to make the judgment, I probably would say I enjoyed being a judge more than being a state senator.
Okay.
State Senate, it was a lot of fun in the first 10 years because I was a Democrat and the Democrats were in control, and so I had all these great chairmanships, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, chairman of the Labor Industry and Professions Committee, and then I had various things I got appointed to, commissions and the like, and so that was very exciting. And then after the Florio tax package resulted in the backlash that it did, and the Democrats lost control of the legislature, you go from being someone of influence to a person who sits basically in the back row. So the second 10 years was not nearly as impactful and as exciting to me as were the first 10.
Of course, being a state senator is a part-time job. You still maintain your practice as a lawyer at that time.
Yes.
You know, how did you find the integration of having to make those trips to Trenton and your political responsibilities you had versus trying to run a practice as a lawyer here in Jersey City?
Very challenging. In fact, I had to pretty much cut out certain kinds of work that would fit into that kind of a schedule, because you could never get involved in a trial, for example, that would take 4 or 5 days, because that would mean you'd have to be in Trenton one of those days, and it was just impossible to handle. So I began to take the kind of cases that I could work around my legislative duties. So I did a lot of workers' compensation, I did family law, I did states, I did some labor law, things that you could pretty much work at your own pace and your own schedule. So it changed the things I did, but you know, I was able to come to a balance.
I saw in your resume, Ed, that you did have educationally some background in the labor field. You got an LLM in labor law from New York University after receiving your law degree from Fordham University, and then you were a member of the labor arbitration program at Rutgers University School of Labor Management Relations in the 70s. Any reason and why and how you were directed to that subspecialty?
Well, all the while I was in college and law school, and even afterwards for a while, I worked as an iron worker, construction iron worker. I was a journeyman. All of the relatives on my father's side were iron workers, so I quickly became very much into ironworking. So I kind of thought that I would like to get into something where I could use my talents to help the ironworkers. I even thought that maybe I would leave the practice of law and become elected to an office in the Ironworkers Union, perhaps even at the national level. So that was kind of the thinking behind the LLM. Never really used it much in my practice. I probably did less than a dozen labor arbitrations. So I spent a year training to become a labor arbitrator and never really fulfilled that promise.
Of course, you sometimes now, as a retired judge, put on the arbitration mediation role. Do you not? The last 4.5 years?
Oh yeah.
Are you enjoying that?
I am, but I'd like to be doing more of it. for the first 2 years after I retired, I did nothing but have fun. And then I ran into one of my baby judge classmates at Judicial College. And he said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "Oh, I'm just having fun." He said, "Just having fun? You were 8 years in the civil division. Why aren't you mediating?" I said, "Well, I thought about it, but I don't know. I kind of like just kicking back and enjoying myself." So he said, "Take the course. Take Bob Margulies' course." He says, "Call Marie." I said, "Well, I happen to know Marie. She's my son-in-law's mother. So I will call her." And I did. I called her and I took the courses and started mediating. And I like it, but I'd like to be doing more of it. And part of the problem is I spend the winter in Florida. So
Yeah, that's when you have that. That's a gap usually of several weeks when you're down in the warmer climb, so to speak. Yeah, well, there's those things that fly in the air.
Yes,
You get
you're
back
right.
if you need to.
yeah, you're right.
It's right there.
And I do phone conferences and keep the ball rolling on the cases that I do have that are alive.
Well, good luck with that. I mean, it's something also that I guess. I mean, I'm quite frankly thinking about that as well as I approach retirement next year, 2018. So it's really a perspective of not the monetary component as much as trying to keep the gray cell matter moving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
although I know you're a duffer, and I know you do, I've been known to spend some time on the golf course. Am I correct?
You are. I'm playing about 4 times a week now.
Okay. Well, and we've played together, and we'll play together in the future. I know we've talked about it. I was interested when you went back to that history that you had working and your connection to labor through your iron work as an iron worker.
Yeah.
Did you actually work in a mill of some sort?
No. This was the construction ironwork, the people that erect the buildings and bridges and the like. And I had tremendous experiences, all basically in the Hudson, Bergen County area, working on high rises on the waterfront. I worked on the powerhouse. Yeah.
What was your age at the time you were doing that work?
Well, interestingly enough, I could have done it right out of high school because of my family's involvement with the union. But my parents wouldn't let me start ironworking until I had a couple of years of college under my belt, because I think they wanted to make sure their son wouldn't be lured away by the big money that you make as a journeyman ironworker. So I started then when I was 19.
So you were a full-time student at St. Peter's College at that time?
Yeah.
And you were still doing some part-time work?
No, the ironworking was basically summertime,
Summertime.
Christmas vacation, Easter vacation, and when we got holidays, I became skilled enough doing various things like welding and burning and so forth, that I could show up and just get sent out for a day and work for a day as an iron worker.
Of course, at that time, I'm imagining that the union for the construction workers, including iron workers, were, I think, more powerful than they are today.
I would say so, and in fact, the local union that I was a member of got taken over by another union. They had some issues with some officials that got in trouble, and so they were taken over by the union from Essex County, Local 11.
Gotta ask you this question. When you say iron worker and working on high-rises and buildings, what comes to mind is that classic photo. Of course, I'm sure it was before your time, where you've got about 6 or 7 construction workers eating their lunch on
Sitting on a beam.
iron beam about 50 stories up. That wasn't one of you. We weren't in that photo, were you?
I didn't make that photo.
But were you ever in a similar situation where you were that high?
Absolutely.
And of course, that was before they had all these safety mechanisms and.
Well, generally, what they would do is they would plank 2 floors below where you were working. So if you fell, as long as you fell inside the building, you were going to go down 2 floors and you'd land on a planked out area. If you went out over the end, it was all over.
Yeah.
So.
What do you when you talk about the 10 years as a judge? Let's take this last phase of your career before now going on to your new career as an arbitrator mediator. You were in different divisions during those 10 years?
2 years, 8 months in criminal. That's where I started, and then I got rotated to civil, and did the last 8 years in civil.
All right. So, and then most of that tenure you were here in the Brennan Courthouse?
For the whole 8 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
On the second floor?
Second floor.
That's right. Now I'm trying to think that. Did I take over
You
your
did.
office? That's right.
And you painted it. As soon as you came in, you changed the color scheme.
You don't hold that against me, do you?
No, not at all.
Were there any particular types of cases you enjoyed sitting in the civil division?
Yes, I'd say the most interesting cases that I held, presided over were a couple of products liability cases and medical malpractice cases. I think they were the most interesting, and I think the attorneys in those cases were so skilled that the case could try itself almost.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really interesting and educational to be part of that.
Yeah, you find I found in, I don't know, I guess 7 or 8 medical malpractice cases I try now, of course, in Chancery, but you almost become an expert in that particular field, you know, whatever the subject is, because the attorneys are so prepared, they make sure, in explaining to a jury, they make sure the judge understands as well, and then you become sort of a semi-expert. So you're right, I found that to be the experience as well, but
I'll give you this as an anecdote. When I was in the legislature, I was the father of the original lemon car law, and we were the second state in the union to adopt a lemon car law. I tried 2 lemon car cases, the most boring cases I think I ever was involved in, and I said, I started this cottage industry by this, you know, what I thought was very good legislation.
what did I create, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did you ever have the opportunity, as I'm sure you know, as a judge, a well-known judge for 10 years, that very often when you're confronted with a legal issue involving the construction of a statute which has been adopted by the legislature, you have lawyers on opposite sides of the table and they begin to argue, well, the intent of the legislature was X and the other one says it's Y. Did you ever stand up and say, I wrote that law, I know what the intent of the law. Did you ever have the opportunity to do
No,
that?
I never had that experience, but that would be interesting.
Right. The civil division again was one which were presented on a daily basis with, you never knew what was going to come through the door, right?
Exactly.
And what you were assigned.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it's like, okay.
And that's one of the things I really liked about it. I mean, there was never any downtime. You finish one case, and Judge Bariso sent the next people in, and they were ready to go, and you pick a jury and get going, and it's like, the time flies. It really does.
If Judge Bariso was your last assignment judge.
Actually, Mary Costello was.
She was the presiding judge of civil.
Yeah.
But
the
so going back and assignment judges, what other than that 10 years, who else was the assignment judge in that period? When you came on, who was the assignment judge? Wasn't Galopoli?
No, I think it was Burl Ives Humphreys, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
In the beginning, and I had worked very closely with him when I was a state senator. We worked together very closely in deciding which people were going to become judges.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He was proactive.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I could tell you some stories off the record, but.
Okay, well, we're still on the record. We got a few more minutes left, but going back to that nexus between judges and your legislative career, you were for how many years the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee?
Well, I was on the committee for 20 years. I chaired it for 6 years.
Okay.
And then when the Republicans took control, I was succeeded by Senator Gormley, Bill Gormley.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was it, not to tell us the stories you can't tell us on the record, were there different levels of involvement that assignment judges or others would play in terms of trying to monitor and usher individuals through the committee?
The only judge I had any dealing with was Judge Burl Ives Humphreys.
Yeah.
None of the other judges would call and say, hey, by the way, so-and-so's a turkey, or so-and-so make a great judge. No, never.
Well, I have to, not to make this a mutual admiration society, but I have to tell you that it's well known among members of the bar here in Hudson County the judiciary who were members of the bar who became judges, that in your tenure as a member and chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, you presented the utmost professionalism in terms of ushering and putting potential judges through that process. And on behalf of the Bar Association, because that's why we're here, on behalf of the Bar Association, I want to personally thank you for your years of service in that regard.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
And
It was a service of love.
I think we're near the close end of our interview today, and I told you and showing you how you can sort of bring this up on our website when it comes down to. Just tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, my wife, Ellen, retired after 45 years with the Bayonne Board of Education. For the last 10 or so years, she was assistant superintendent in charge of curriculum.
How long have you been married, Ellen?
Well, I'm going to be married 50 years this coming November.
There you go. Congratulations.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's Ellen. She's we after we both retired, we moved to the shore. We live in Manasquan now. After living in Hudson County our entire lives, both of us. She was from Bayonne, I was from Jersey City.
How was that your beautiful house in Bayonne? Right near the park,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our daughter Kerry is a teacher in Bayonne. She's married to a police officer with the Port Authority, and they have 3 children. The oldest, Liliana, was just 6 last week, and she just had a part in the show Annie. She played the part of the orphan who says, "Oh my goodness, oh my goodness." And she's got 2 twin brothers, Joseph and Nicholas, who will be 4 this August. So they're a great family, and we love to spend as much time with them as we can.
All right, well, you do have more time now, but we now know that you'd like to see more of those mediations, so maybe you won't have as much time. And we'll see, but good luck on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Judge O'Connor, for being here. And again, as on behalf of the Bar Association, the Oral History Committee of that association, we thank you for coming up and paying us a visit.
Okay, it was my pleasure.